Alright folks, let's talk about the IRS forms and their due dates. And I know this part of tax can feel like a alphabet soup. But don't worry, I'm going to break it down so maybe it can actually sticks and actually makes sense. So yeah, let's get started. So first and foremost, the most common one is income tax. Okay, so this applies to if you say a sole proprietor or if you are freelancer, right? Really common scenario that you're going to be filing for income tax, and they will be filing for Form 1040 with Schedule C, right? And the deadline, I know this may seem a mouthful, but it actually makes sense. Just think about this. The deadline is the 15th day of the fourth month after your tax year ends. Okay? What does that mean? So for example, the tax year most of the time is the calendar year, right? So for example, the year end is the December, right? So your year ends in December. Most of the time, your tax years also end in December. That means after that, fourth month, okay, most of the time is April, right? And 15th days of the fourth month, that's just the April the 15th, okay? Really simple. That's applied for 99% of the time. If your tax year as well as the calendar year is exact the same, that's April the 15th. Unless you got specific needs, you want to change the tax year, most of the time it's just the April 15th. Okay? If you don't know, it is April the 15th. Okay? If you do not actively change it, it's April the 15th. Okay? That is your due date. Right, income tax. And next is the self-employment tax. Okay? That's your, say, social security as well as Medicare contribution. If you're self-employed, right, you're going to use the Schedule SE, right? Self-employment, SE, really simple, right? And here is a good news. It's not filed separately, right? You just file it together with your 1040. Remember we talked about the 1040, right? Really simple. Okay, so really simple. File it to get together. Right, but wait. If you owe more than just once a year, you also need estimated tax. Okay, that's the Form 1040 ES. ES for estimated taxes. Okay, and the date is a little bit different. Just to think of, because it's estimated, right? You're going to constantly check in with the IRS because it's estimated. So every quarter is a quarterly check-in with the IRS. So every quarter you have to file that. That's the April 15th. It's the middle of the quarter, right? Because it's estimated. Come on, you got to give them a little bit time to process this estimated information, right? So April, June, September, and January, middle of the month, so all that is 15th of the following year, right? So yeah, and if you are qualified for this, you know what, you're wearing the boss hat. You are the boss. Come on, congratulations. So if you got employees, you're wearing the boss hats, and then that means the social security, the Medicare, the income tax withholding, all that you're going to find Form 941. And you know what? Things, come on, you got employees, so you have to do this work quarterly, unfortunately. And all this is not estimated, so it's the end of the month, end of the quarter, to be honest. So it's April, July, October, and January 31st. Okay? And if you are a smaller employer, the IRS may let you just file this form like a 944 annually, just to file once instead. Okay, that really depends on the specific scenarios. I will talk about that in detail. This is just a general overview because if you got employees, the situation got complicated. Okay, so yeah, this is about employment tax. And by the way, speaking of employee, you know what? If you're an employer, you also got reporting duties. Okay, so that's the W2 as well as W3 reporting. That means that you got duty to report the employees as well. And as from the employee point of view, this is how the IRS got this like different data, so they can cross referencing and cross and checking, because your employer actually report that to IRS. Okay, and if your employer, right, that means that you got this like a W-2 forms to your staff by the January 31st. Okay, and sending, of course, you have to send it to different parties, so to W-2s and W-3s, to the Social Security administrations. And there's also, is really simple, just one deadline, January 31st. Okay, it's January 31st, beginning of the year, right? Any of that year's 1st January, right? So really simple, right? And of course, if there was like we talk about the employee, of course, if unfortunately we got like a federal unemployment taxes, is also we're going to file this form 940. Okay, this annual return is due also by January 31st, but there's a catch. There is always a catch here. So if your liability for the quarter is more than $500, you've also got a quarterly deposit due date. Quarterly, as the name suggests. So April, July, October, January. And April, I think, is 30, and then July 31st, October 31st, and January 31st. Okay? So, really simple. If it's there, it involved like April 15th, like middle of April, is 1040 as it was Schedule C, right? And we got tons of quarterly reporting duties. That's the, say, 1040 estimate, right? It's quarterly duties, as well as like a form 941, unless you're on the the 944, right? This is just the report annually. And of course, we got this January 31st, we got W2s, W3s, and form 940, as well as the fourth quarter 941. Okay, and by the way, previously we talked about like quarterly reporting duties. July 31st, October 31st, and January 31st. April is 30. Okay, I forgot to stress that. It's a little bit different, but just a general rule of thumb at the end of that quarter, right? End day of that quarter. And if you're still not sure, check your calendar, right? This is just a general rule of thumb, really overview. You just need to know that sometimes you got like quarterly reporting duties, say 1040 ES estimate, or form say 941, right? End of that quarter, you check that specific date. All right.